right, so get this. We're diving into the world of Nate Croson for today's deep dive.
Oh.
And he's a blues musician, but there's a twist you wouldn't expect.
Okay, now you've got me intrigued. What's the twist? Is he like playing a washboard made of like motherboards or something?
Close.
Yeah.
Even cooler. We're talking DIY electronics, and specifically a guitar amp that he built out of a vintage CRT television.
Now that's what I call thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
Literally. Tell me everything.
Okay, well, we've got a few different sources for this deep dive. We've got his band's Bandcamp page. We got a peek into his YouTube channel, and even a write-up on Hackaday, which, if you're not familiar, is it's kind of the online haven for all things ingenious and, let's be honest, sometimes a little wacky.
Right.
In the best way possible.
Our kind of deep dive then. So who is this tech-savvy bluesman?
Okay, so Croson, along with his musical partner Josiah, they make up the blues punk duo Crojo.
Crojo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Think raw, almost discordant sounds, kind of like if early Black Keys met Captain Beefheart in a basement recording session.
Whoa, that's very specific.
Yeah.
Is basement recording session, is that an accurate description, or is that more of a metaphorical, like, underground vibe?
It's more literal than you might think.
Okay.
Their 2020 album, which you can find on Bandcamp, definitely has that lo-fi charm to it.
Mm-hmm.
But even just the song titles alone had me hooked from the get-go. Descending bass blues, kill a robot on a killing spree, out on the open range.
Wow. Talk about range.
I know.
I'm getting like serious creative energy just from those titles.
Absolutely. And then the lyrics are just as fascinating. For example, in Descending Bass Blues, there's this line, "My palms are sweaty, my heart is heavy, and I don't know, and I don't know."
Wow. Talk about laying it bare.
Right.
There's a rawness there, almost a stream of consciousness to those lyrics that's really, really compelling.
Exactly. It's vulnerable, but there's also this like playfulness in the delivery.
Oh.
It's not your typical blues lament. It's something a little more interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see why this caught your attention. There's clearly more to Nate Croson than meets the eye.
You hit the nail on the head. See, aside from the whole music thing, Croson is a skilled programmer.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Like coding in his spare time between gigs? What kind of programming are we talking about here?
I mean, his GitHub page is full of projects, demos, games, the works. And get this, he even delves into Game Boy Advance programming.
A blues musician who codes for Game Boy Advance, that's not a combination you see every day.
Right. It's this fascinating blend of artistic expression and technical skill.
Yeah.
But it gets even better, because remember that CRT television amp I mentioned?
Oh, I haven't forgotten. I'm dying to hear more about this.
Yeah.
Was it just a whim, or is there like some real engineering behind it?
Oh, it's legit.
Okay.
Croson didn't just plug his guitar into an old TV and hope for the best.
Right.
This thing was featured on Hackaday.
Yeah.
And they're not exactly known for showcasing like amateur hour projects.
You're telling me Hackaday is it's like the digital mecca for ingenious DIY tech.
Right.
So what makes the CRT amplifier so special?
Well, imagine this. You plug your guitar into this vintage TV set, and suddenly you're not just hearing the music, but you're seeing it.
Whoa.
Yeah, the TV screen actually visualizes the sound waves, almost like a rudimentary oscilloscope.
Okay, you might need to back up a bit for those of us who don't speak fluent tech.
Yeah.
What exactly is an oscilloscope,
yeah.
and how does that relate to a TV amplifying a guitar?
So think of an oscilloscope as a device that lets you see sound waves.
Okay.
So it translates those waves into like electrical signal that then show up as patterns on a screen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of, like a visual EQ on a stereo, but way cooler.
Right.
And so Croson basically rigged this CRT television to do the same thing, but with his guitar sound.
That's brilliant. Turning this vintage TV into like this giant analog sound visualizer. That's amazing.
Right.
The Hackaday article called it a crude oscilloscope.
Yeah.
Does that mean it's more novelty than function?
I wouldn't say that at all. It's more like it just embodies that kind of raw DIY aesthetic.
Okay.
Remember, this is a guy who's into lo-fi blues,
right,
and Game Boy Advance programming.
Yeah.
So the CRT amp just kind of fits perfectly. It's inventive, it's unexpected, it works. Hackaday wouldn't feature it if it were just a gimmick.
Right. That's a good point.
Yeah.
It speaks to the spirit of like resourceful creativity,
Yeah.
Like we live in a world that's so obsessed with like sleek, mass-produced tech. And here's Croson, like, breathing new life into something practically ancient.
Right.
He's like a tech archaeologist with a soldering iron.
And a Fender Stratocaster. And speaking of which, we kind of glossed over the music side of things a little bit.
Right.
It's easy to get caught up in the cool factor of this CRT amp.
Right.
But we can't forget that this is all in service of the music.
Of course, of course.
And speaking of which, it's time to talk about the Iowa Blues Challenge.
Right. You mentioned that he competed in that. Did he bring the CRT amp on stage with him?
Unfortunately, no evidence of that.
Okay.
He actually competed as a solo duo act.
Okay.
Which I think tells you something about his commitment to his musicianship. He wasn't relying on the novelty of the TV amp to kind of carry him through.
Right.
This was about showcasing like his raw talent as a bluesman.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
It takes guts to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Especially in a genre as demanding as blues. I mean, this isn't just a tech hobby for him. It's clear that he's serious about his craft.
Absolutely. Now, before you ask, yes, there is a way to see this fascinating intersection of blues and technology in action.
Okay.
Head over to Croson's YouTube channel and Croson, and you'll find a mix of both his music and tech projects.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
A true Renaissance man. What's fascinating to me is that Croson really represents this blurring of lines between artist and technologist, which seems to be kind of a growing trend these days.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like those old categories we used to put people in: musician, engineer, artists. They're starting to feel almost outdated.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Croson embodies that perfectly. He's
Yeah.
not just, dabbling in both worlds. He's seamlessly blending them.
Yeah.
Which begs the question, is this like cross-pollination between disciplines? Is that becoming more common in our digital age?
It makes you wonder. I mean, on the one hand, we've got like incredible technology at our fingertips, right?
Right.
Opening up creative avenues that we couldn't have even imagined before.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, there's this resurgence of DIY ethos.
Yeah.
Even if it means like repurposing what some might see as outdated tech.
Like coaxing new sounds out of vintage CRT TV instead of just like, tossing it aside for the latest gadget.
Exactly. And it's this fascinating paradox of using cutting-edge knowledge to then breathe new life into old technology.
Yeah.
It's as if embracing those older technologies unlocks a different kind of creativity, one that's less about, sleek consumerism and more about just like raw experimentation and ingenuity.
And let's be honest, who doesn't love a good dose of ingenuity, especially when it involves something as unexpected as blues music and CRT TVs?
It makes you wonder, in a world that's so obsessed with the next big thing, is there something to be said for finding beauty and innovation in the things that we often just discard as obsolete?
It's a question worth pondering for sure.
Yeah.
Are we on the cusp of like a new era of DIY ingenuity?
Yeah.
Fueled by, accessible information and a desire to create something truly unique.
And will we see more artists like Nate Croson emerge? Musicians, programmers, tinkerers, kind of blurring the lines and showing us what's possible when passion meets innovation.
One thing's for sure, after this deep dive, I'll never look at a vintage TV the same way again.
Me neither. It just goes to show sometimes the most interesting discoveries are waiting for us just off the beaten path.
Yeah.
Just got to be open to the unexpected.